Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. I support women to bloom in midlife with creativity and spiritual life coaching. I'm also your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. Before this episode with Geraldine Crane, I would just like to invite you to download my midlife meditation. It was created to remind you that your life is a precious gift. Reaching midlife is a milestone worth celebrating and marking the start of this exciting new chapter. And also, tune into Her Inspirations, which is the sister podcast to this title. In each solo episode, I aim to inspire my midlife sisters to recognize and embrace the wisdom of our experience and allow this next season of our life to be the most free and fruitful. Midlife is your time to bloom. Quick links are in the show notes below. My guest this week is Geraldine Crane. She is a Serene Spiritual Hypnotherapist and coach, helping women to heal mother wounds with the love of the universe, spirit guides, past loved ones, and their inner divinity. During our conversation, Geraldine shares about her healing journey from the age of 37, when she realized her relationship with her mother was emotionally abusive and cut contact. We also talk about the power of creativity during healing and the importance of healing the mother wound in midlife. So, as always, I begin by asking my guest, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
For me, there's two kind of ways I feel that higher energetic resonance. There's professionally when I am doing my Serene Spiritual Hypnotherapy sessions with people, and I can feel that spiritual connection coming in. I can feel the love from their spirit guides coming through, and I can feel them connecting with their spirit guides. My clients tell me what's happening, but I can feel the energy in the room, and it's absolutely energizing. It's really beautiful. It's really powerful. And for like the rest of the day, I'm high on life. It's just beautiful. I love it. So yeah, there's that moment in my work that I really feel it very deeply. I also in my work feel it when I speak publicly, and I can really feel my work connecting with people, and it's almost bringing again. I'm always about breaking stigmas around having an unhealthy, unhappy relationship with your mom, and opening up the conversation, because it's conversations that aren't allowed to be had. But even more powerfully is bringing forward that love of the universe, because most of the people I work with haven't experienced safety, haven't been made to feel that they matter, haven't been given protection and unconditional love and acceptance from that main caregiver, usually their mother. And you can bring that through from the universe. You can bring that through from that love that comes through on a high frequency. So it is that frequency energy. And when you can bring that into a room of people, that's incredible. I also do spiritual circles, serene spiritual circles, just with like 5 women, just bringing that love in again, because it's just so healing, so powerful, and it brings such a deep connection to each other as well as spiritually, I just love it. In my personal life, I would say I get that kind of high frequency level from singing musicals around my house. I love musicals.
Which one's your favorite?
I have my husband, not my husband, my son actually asked me that question just a few moments ago, and I was like, oh my God, there's just so many. But I love West Side Story. I love the Rocky Horror Show. And I love Wicked, which is very good at the minute because of the movie that's come out. But it's there's Defying Gravity, that song. If you've been in any kind of relationship where you've been emotionally manipulated, where you've been controlled, or you've been made to view the world and yourself a certain way that wasn't true, which I certainly was in my relationship with my mum, that waking up and realizing you have the power to heal and the power to be whoever you want to be and to realize who you truly are, that song speaks to my soul. And I absolutely love it. I always want to sing it at the top of my voice and cry at the same time. It's just, so that definitely brings me up to that frequency as well. It's just, oh, love it.
Good for you. Good for you. I love the way you describe singing and music as well. As a singer, I know what that feels like when you just get into that. All the emotions, there's no boundaries.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I love it. I'm not, I've never sung professionally. I know I can hold a tune. I wouldn't call myself a singer, but I can hold a tune and I love singing around the house. And there's just nothing like pelting it out like there's nobody else around. It just, I love it.
Great stuff. Okay, before we go deeper into our conversation, I just want to give you the opportunity to just share a little bit about yourself and how you got to be doing the work that you're doing today, and then we'll delve into that.
So it's quite a long story because I'm a Serene Spiritual Hypnotherapist and coach, but I particularly specialize in supporting those women whose mothers have not been a source of safety, didn't make them feel like they mattered, like they were enough, that didn't give them that unconditional love and unconditional acceptance and support. I help them to heal through a connection with their inner child and bringing their inner child all that love and safety, letting their inner child know they matter, really letting them shine, letting their inner child then bring through joy and curiosity and playfulness. And I also help them to connect with their own inner divinity, with their team of spirit guides, if that's what feels good to them, and bring that love of the universe through and bring healing through that. And it's incredibly powerful and I love it. But the way I came to do this work was through having to heal my own mother wounds. So I became my mother's carer when I was just 12 years old. And it wasn't just for her physical health. She had a lot of physical health needs where I was having to help her dress, help her eat, keep the house clean, empty commodes, and from being very, very young, having to deal with things like that. But it was more what caused the deep wounds was the emotional side. So I was very much what's called a parentified daughter, and that's the daughter that's put in the role of parent. And it wasn't just the physical care, it was very much the emotional care that caused the deepest wounds, because I was seen, or in my view, seen as my mum saw me as an extension of her. So it's that deeply enmeshed relationship. And she would share with me everything. So her money worries, she would share with me her suicidal thoughts. She would share with me trauma from her childhood, including sexual abuse. And I was carrying the weight of that from being very, very young. I mean, some of it she was sharing with me from being 8 years old. And that's a lot for anyone to carry. And it caused deep wounds for me. But then those wounds only got worse as I got older, because as I tried to separate myself a little bit and have a life of my own and go out and have friends and want to live a life for myself, she became much more fearful, much more controlling, manipulative, guilt trips. Even if she heard me laughing with friends in the house, it would be, how dare you not include me? I'm so sad and alone here. And instead of just enjoying the fact her daughter's having some time with her friends. And I love hearing my children giggle. I don't care who it's with. And it was all about her. And I think there was a deep fear of abandonment on her part, but what it caused in the end was such a difficult relationship that in the end I had to cut contact. Now, it took many, many years to do that. It wasn't until I became a mother myself and I started to see how unhealthy the relationship was. I had counselling and a particularly good counsellor who just said things to me like, why are you not furious with her? You should be furious, but you keep defending her. And she just helped me to see things more clearly. And she was the one that eventually gave me permission to consider what life would look like without my mum in it. But I also, at the same time, had moved on from being a probation officer, and I'd worked in addiction, which is has really helped, because addiction and trauma bonding, which is the bond you get with somebody who's abusive or controlling, is very similar to addiction. You get cravings and you miss them even though it's causing you harm. So that really helped. But I then moved to working with survivors of domestic abuse. And it was through working with them that I started to realize that a lot of these behaviors that I'm trying to help these women realize that they'd been a victim of in that relationship, I had been a victim of too. So there was the isolation, the manipulation, the psychological, the emotional abuse. It's really hard to use that word when it comes to your own mother, but it was. And it was through doing that work, whilst also having counselling and becoming a mother, that suddenly I was like, oh my goodness. This is why I've been battling anxiety since I was a child. This is why I struggle to trust my own opinions of myself. This is why I'm such a people pleaser and will put people's needs before my own, to my own detriment. This is why I have to ask everybody's opinions on everything, because I don't trust myself. And it just really started to bring everything together. But when you do cut contact, which people only do as a last resort, it's never the easy out, which is what you get accused of, and which is why I find it so important to talk about these things openly, to break this stigma that, lots of us have unhealthy, unhappy relationships with mothers. It's way more common than people realize. So you're not alone if this resonates. And you do have a right to put boundaries in place. You have to hold the boundaries. Don't expect her to. You have to hold them. But if they're not respected and they keep pushing back, then you have the right to get the space you need in the way that you need it. And for me, that had to be cutting contact. But it doesn't then end. Everything isn't then just fine. It's then all the healing, because you finally got that space to heal. All the emotions come up and you go on such an emotional roller coaster. And it was through that I learned to do the job that I do now. It was through that I then trained as a hypnotherapist. I reconnected with my spiritual development work I've been doing since I was 19. I've found this real healing power of connecting with spirit guides, connecting with the universe, connecting with our inner child, and bringing through that incredible love, unconditional, so safe, so pure, so raw, that were not experienced in that relationship, that was so foundational. It brings so much healing through, and it's so beautiful. It's emotional. It's not easy. You've got to be ready to cry. You've got to be ready to feel all the feelings, because you can't heal it if you can't feel it. So you've got to be ready to do that work. But when you do, the peace that it brings is incredible. And the peace can still underlie chaos in your life, but it stays there. And I can really show witness to that, because I've had a crazy 2024, as I think many, many people have. I don't think I'm unique in this at all, but I had breast cancer this year. Luckily not one that would spread. I was very blessed. It was never going to spread. But I had to have a mastectomy and had to have it reconstructed from my stomach, and I had a nasty infection, and it was a really difficult ordeal, and my body is still recovering. The emotional stuff that came up was huge. But had I not done all that inner child work, had I not had all that support spiritually, had I not healed, well, I would never say I've completely healed my mother wounds. It keeps going, but I've done a lot. Had I not done all that, I think this year would have been 10 times worse. And I think actually the cancer could have been worse. And I feel really blessed, actually. I've learned a lot over this last year, and I've shifted and healed even more. But I'm very grateful to younger me, even just a couple of years ago, for being willing to do that work and do that healing. And I think it makes me even more grateful now. I'm attracting even more incredible people to come and do this work with me. I'm attracting the most amazing people to work with right now, and they're so beautiful, and they're so ready and so open to it, and it's having such a massive impact on them. I just love it. Sorry, I could talk for hours.
No, 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 no. I don't apologize because I was just kind of drawn into what you're hearing because I don't think I shared this with you when we spoke before. There's so many parallels about your experience and my experience. My experience is that my dad died when I was 4 years old, and from that moment on, my brother was one. My mom was pretty much diagnosed, and I always say it like this, with a mental illness. So from that, from being 4 until she passed when I was age 44. So for the next 44 years, 4 years, or 44 years of my life, we were witness to her going into mania, into depression, into mania, into depression, and all that comes with that, because the family kind of came in and helped as much as they could until they couldn't, which meant that the onus was on myself and my brother to, like you say, be her carer. And even at a very young age, we were both having to make decisions as to whether she was going to be sectioned or not. You know, big decisions, big decisions like that. When adults are talking to you about, well, you know, do you think this should be happening? And that there was so much uncertainty around our home life, because we could go to school one day and come back, or not come back. We could go to school and have someone pick us up from school and take us to a different house, and we'd have to go and stay with new people and that whole kind of thing. So there was this real kind of fracture in our relationship, because, you know, she was up and down in her own experience. But in the same way, it's like when you were saying, I don't want to call it abuse. From my point of view, I don't get that she was abusive. She was just neglectful, but not necessarily deliberately so. It was because she was caught. And it's hard, like you say, it's hard to kind of go, well, she did this to me. But the reality of the situation is that was the reality of the situation. And we suffered as a result, you know. And when you say, you know, and when you say you have to deal with things that people, you know, when I was kind of less than 10 years old, having to make decisions or think about things, or think about my parents' mortality, which is usually something that people don't have to take on board until they're settled in their lives, in their 40s. You know, you've gone out, you've lived that kind of teenage life and everything like that, and you can live without worrying about things. Time, you know, not.
Well, it's something in the Inner Child Protocol that's by John Bradshaw, which is a really powerful healing protocol you can follow. One of the main things that helps a child to develop healthily and well is knowing that their parent is safe. And when you've lived with a parent who is suicidal and you're very aware of that suicidal ideation, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I never had the coming home and I might have gone to to another carer, or she wasn't being sectioned, because nobody was really aware of how bad it was. It was very hidden, and I think some of my mum's behavior was more covert narcissistic as well. So there was definite times of triangulation, trying to turn people against each other. She would badmouth me to my grandparents and then make me fearful of talking to them. So keeping us isolated. You know, she very much turned me against my father for a long time, and certainly my stepmother. So cut me off from support that I would have reached out for. So I felt very much alone, which made me dependent on her. And there was points where her mental health was very bad, and there was talks of sectioning, but she wouldn't go. Or they talked about respite, and that she just wouldn't go. She convinced me that if she'd gone, her mental health would actually get worse. And, you know, so it was better that I took care of her. So there was never that support. There was never the proper formal diagnosis. She wouldn't engage with people. So in some ways I had a little bit more stability, but in other ways, you know, and this is it. You can't compare these things. It's not about comparison, and it's not about blaming anyone or blaming mum. It's about acknowledging that it caused you harm. That's what's really important. It doesn't matter about using words like abuse or things like that. What matters is it caused you harm, whether she meant to or not. You know, I really don't think it's sometimes useful in your healing journey to maybe understand a little bit more about your mum. Like I've, done a lot of research around emotionally immature parents, narcissistic parents, the mother wound, this generational wound that gets passed down, and that's all there, and it really helps to release you from feeling responsible, like it was your fault, because it's never the child's fault, never. It's just not possible. But it is our responsibility to heal the wounds that we get. And that's why it's really important. You have to acknowledge the harm. You have to allow yourself to feel the pain, to then heal it, to allow yourself to grieve. Grieve the childhood you didn't get. Grieve the person, that we would have got glimpses of. Especially, I think, when there's mental health. You have days when they're healthy and well and happy. And my mum could light up a room when she was in a good way. I mean, especially if she was having slightly manic periods, she could really boom, she would explode
in that mania, isn't there?
Yeah, there was some fun in that though. As a child, when your parents manic, it can be really good fun, and they can be, she got absolutely fanatic about Michael Jackson, and I became a fanatic about Michael Jackson for many years, and it was a real source of fun and joy and light, and so when you start healing stuff, you almost have to grieve. Sometimes thinking about the good stuff is more painful than the bad, because we have to accept that that's it is like addiction. You crave that good bit. You crave that first high. You crave that if I'm just good enough, I just behave myself, if I just keep her stable enough, I'll get that version back. But as I got older, that got less and less and less. And she, I believe, chose fear over me at some point, and I can even remember the point of having this argument over text. And rather than just saying, you're my daughter, I don't care, I just love you. Instead, she just dug her heels in and got worse and worse. And it was at that point where I was like, it was getting so constricting for me. It was like I was swimming in poison, which sounds horrible, but that's how it felt. It felt like I was drowning. And then you just get to the point where you've got no option but get out, because you're just not going to heal if you don't.
Yeah, I understand that. I had long periods of, they were in the Midlands and I was in London. The only way that I could, and I'd periodically go back for visits, and then I'd be like, okay, I need to go back, and it's going to take me probably about 3 or 4 months before I'm going to be able to pick up the phone, because I needed to just kind of regulate. And it's a difficult one as well because of the deification of mother, and then you are not acting like a good daughter, and of you'll get it from all people who probably don't necessarily really know the details of what you're going through. But then for me as well, there was always this underlying comparison of I should do this, and I should, so I was causing a lot of my own pain because I was still trying to measure up to something that I know was just not possible in my lifetime. The setup wasn't there for it to be that.
No, exactly. And it's this, there is an incredible pressure that because your mother gave birth to you, you owe her. But it's realizing when you give birth to a child or you adopt, however you become that parent, you commit to them, not the other way around. And then you get, well, she carried you and she fed you and she, she put a roof over your head. And that's just bare minimum. That's not, good mothering is about putting that child first, protecting, nurturing, caring, making them feel like they matter, giving them confidence, allowing them to have their own space, giving them roots, and then giving them the wings to fly. And that's not what I always felt like I got shackled. I never got the wings. I just got shackles. And I had to create my own wings. And it's realizing and it's accepting that you don't owe her. I'm writing a book at the minute. You do not owe her your peace. You have responsibility to put your own boundaries in place and do what you need to do to heal. It's realizing you're not responsible for healing or fixing her. You're not responsible for making up for the times when she upsets other people. That's not your responsibility. It's realizing that all the wounds that she caused you are not your fault, but you are your responsibility to heal and not pass on. And but sometimes to do that, we have to pull away, because otherwise there's just more wounds happening, and you can't catch up with yourself, And I tried to do the pulling away for periods of time, and she just got worse and worse. I made one of the mistakes of I did move away to London like you and lived away in London, but it actually got worse. She would be ringing me 5-6 times a day. And then, one time I didn't pick the phone up. She screamed at me. What if I was suicidal? What if I was dead was injured at the bottom of the stairs? I'm like, well, why are you ringing me? I'm hundreds of miles away. I laugh now because you kind of have to, but I made the mistake then of when I decided when we were pregnant to move back to be closer to home. And of course things got even worse. Even at the point I had a miscarriage at one point, and I was sharing it in this beautiful space with some very caring people with my mum by my side. And I was getting all this sympathy and support and empathy and care. And of course, she didn't like it one bit. So she whispered in my ear, well, nobody's asked me how it's affected me. And I was just like, okay. We're doing all I can resist not to scream in your face right now. I had to get as far away from her as I could at that point. But it took a lot more than that before I actually managed to cut contact. It's when you look back and you think, oh my God, what I put up with, things she did and then started trying to do with my children. It was just that. But since I've cut contact, yes, it's not been easy, and it's not something I encourage people to do, because it is very, very hard, because you're basically orphaning yourself. I mean, my father's around, but because of the relationship with my mum, I've never been as close to my father. I love him dearly, and we are as close as we could be now, but you can never quite make up for those many years lost. And she was she was the center of my universe for a long time. So cutting her out was just like, oh my God. It was just, I felt like I'd lost my anchor. And what I had to do was re-anchor myself and find my way. And I was very blessed. I had the support of my maternal grandmother. She was amazing. I had the support of my extended family. And I had I've got a wonderful husband who had my back. A lot of people don't have that. Which makes it 10 times harder. It's quite often the whole family turns on you because you've broken away, and that takes incredible strength, and you can't do it alone. You need to make sure you've got support and you've got help. And this is why it's so important to me to come and have these conversations, because I want people to know that you're not on your own.
Yeah, it's a lot of I hear a lot of my story there as well, but this is not about me today. But
no, but it's important for you sharing your story helps people know too. Yours just as important.
What really making that space, having that physical space, helped me, because at least I was trying to build a life for myself. I had very big dreams about what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this music thing. I wanted to do writing. I wanted to do that. And this is one of the reasons that I'm so for creativity and spirituality, because having that desire actually gave me something to do, gave me something to kind of focus on. So I couldn't spend too long being, oh my God, I allowed myself a little bit of time, and then I'm like, right, I need to get back to writing songs or performing or getting,
and that purpose, isn't it? And when your purpose is also combined with your outlet, beautiful.
Yeah. Right. So it helped. That was, I would say, that has been the saving grace of why I could have, maybe should have been, dead in a ditch or in all manners of really terrible situations. But it was in knowing that having that it took a while before I kind of put realizing that creativity was spirituality in my mind. It was just like I had, at least I could, if I was going to lock myself away in my room, at least I was writing or writing songs. Like, I was doing things. I wasn't just kind of sitting there doing nothing. So I was working towards something, and I always had a very clear and strong vision. So I always had that knowledge of being supported like outside of the physical world, even when people who you would have thought would have stepped in when they realized that, I didn't have those levels of support. I was very much aware of having like a bigger level of support that I could rely on. And that's why I can be, I know this is real, because trust me, I shouldn't be here with a smile on my face today, because there were many instances that would have taken people out had they not have had that. And that's what I realized sometimes when people kind of get caught up in things, is they don't have something, they don't have an outlet, they don't have a connection, they don't have something that they're working towards to take their mind off it, but also to channel that emotion. Because I was feeling so many times, when you go through things like that, you feel so deep. Like when you hear like your mom say something that's not necessarily favorable about you, it like impacts you on such a way in your body. But I found a way of translating that into words or into music or into movement, so I could move it through my body and be able to, get it out. So I was sitting there in the pain for all of that time. And
I just think it's incredibly important part of healing is connecting with I call it your inner divinity, that point of contact within you that connects to a loving divine energy, whatever you want to call it. It's just knowing there is something bigger, there is a higher power out there that you're connected to, and it's love, and it's beautiful, and it loves you no matter what. But also creativity is a really important part of that one, because it helps you to connect with that energy. By being creative, you invite that energy in, and you can feel it more clearly because you're quietening down that egoic, noisy, critical mind, which can be very connected to the wounds that have been caused. And you quieten that down, you get that stillness, and you get creative, but you also get connection. And it's really important. I teach a healing pathway called the Serene Way, and the first bit we do a bit of understanding around mother wounds and things, but the Serene Way in itself is all about you and your healing. And we look at stillness, emotions, reconnection, energy now, and empowerment. But the first point always is the stillness. And it's can get still in different ways. So most people will be thinking of meditation and stilling your mind. That's next level. When you first start on this journey, that's not going to be able to do that. Stillness can come through play, and it's doing something that serves no purpose other than it nourishes you. And I find generally the best way of that is creative in some way. It can be exercise, and it can be that, and certainly connection with nature. But I find one of the most powerful forms of stillness is creativity. For me, it's painting or singing along to musicals at the top of my voice. But and for my husband, it's gardening. He's been on a healing journey recently, and it's been gardening that's been really important for him. That's what allows his mind to still and him to connect with himself again. For me, it can be walking in nature, really is a powerful way. But even that can be creative, because my mind starts getting creative. That's when I come up with ideas for my business, and even running my own business. Being a hypnotherapist is a very creative way of working, because you have to paint a picture for people as they go into hypnosis. Then you have to be ready to work with them in metaphor a lot of the time. And then you have to have an imagination and work with their imagination on how do we heal this? How do we, what does their inner child need? Do I need to do we need to throw a party for them? Do they need to be held? You have to be able to be creative with it. And it's absolutely right. When you're going through something like this, finding something creative that also gives you a purpose It's
Mm.
really powerful to find something that gives you purpose. It's why so many people who've been through something traumatic start up charities or businesses, or, they do something with it because it gives it purpose and that helps you get through.
Mm.
And it's incredibly powerful. But I also think that purpose helps you connect with yourself, connect with your inner divinity, connect with your inner power, connect with your ability to bring healing to yourself. So it's all interconnected. They're all entwined with each other, but it's so important, all of it.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, creativity has been my life's work because it's been my saving, and then I can see how it can help others, and especially
Yes.
women in midlife as well. So this is kind of the core of my client is are women in this midlife period where you're having this reassessment of, okay, what have I been through? And maybe this is the time where there's enough distance between us and our childhood, whatever our childhood looked like, to actually reassess, assess it, see it for what it was, where you thought it was good or bad, and all of the things that happen. So you can see it from a distance. You can almost observe it. You can observe the people who are involved in it. You can see any siblings, any extended family, and you can also start to understand your parents as people, because you're now kind of in the same age that they would have been as they were having you, and then kind of rework what's going on as well, and having that understanding, and then transforming and deciding what kind of older person do you want to be. It's this real kind of moment of, am I going to drag all that stuff with me? Am I going to drag that story? Am I going to drag that pain with me? Or am I going to use those experiences to turn it around for myself, and maybe, turn it around for others as well, which I feel is what you've done.
Yeah, I think, and it's so many of the women I work with are at this age. They're, late 30s up to early 50s into 60s sometimes, but it is this midlife. And whilst also, there's a lot going on hormonally, life starts to shift. And you can be at that stage where you may have children and parents that you're trying to take care of, and everything can get quite heavy. But at the same time, there's a real switch, isn't there, of, no, it's time, I need to look at me now. I really see that in so many of the women. They've got to that point. And I think you're right. I think you get this distance from your childhood that you can now actually start to look back and think, okay. And it's not about living in the past. It's about acknowledging the wounds and allowing them to heal, so you can move forward and be present in this moment and not keep getting dragged back. Because the power is in the present moment, but sometimes we have to do some healing in the past to then be able to be present. And yeah, there's something very powerful about this midlife transition and change, which is really powerful. I think you see it in men too, but it is even more powerful in women, and I think it's partly to do with the way our bodies change. But I think it's also these societal expectations of being the carer. Even if you haven't had children, there's still that expectation to be the carer, and it starts to, we're getting to that point where we're going, excuse me. I'm important too, and I need to heal, and I can't be all these things if I don't look after me. And I think that real shift comes in, and it's incredible, and we need to support each other in it. Not just women, I mean as a human race.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100% totally. I mean, one of the things that I see, and I try to relay to friends that I've got who are kind of in their 30s, some late 20s, 30s, and one of the things I'm saying to them, all of the things that you're making enormous, trust me, are not as enormous as you think. No, it's like you make like the smallest things so big, and especially in your 20s. And I know it feels like you're in the world, and it's just it's the first decade of you being independent. You don't really know as much as you think you do. And that's not to be condescending or anything like that. It's just fact. There's no way.
It's just the way it is, isn't it?
It's just the way
they get into their 30s and suddenly go, oh,
yeah.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. And also, like, the more that you like when I put out birthday things and like kind of old school friends are going like, oh, to be 21 again. I'm like, I don't want to be 30
No,
years younger
thanks.
than I am now. No, thank you.
No,
Much
thank
to you,
you.
but that's like,
No,
prime life lessons. I'm not going to erase
no.
that, go back to that 21-year-old. I
I'm
don't want to,
so happy to be 44. I love being 44. I love being around women who are older. I love the age I am. I mean, I've got younger cousins that I absolutely adore who are younger,
Mhm.
and they're amazing, gorgeous human beings. But I love being my age. I love the fact I'm not bothered about drinking anymore. I don't drink. I've sort of been in a nightclub, just, oh, you know. I
Too
love
bad.
having yeah. I mean, I still love to dance. I do ecstatic dance, still love festivals, still love music, but it's
Yeah.
just, I do it in a different way now. Yeah, I love being the age I am. And this year is certainly teaching me to love my body exactly the way it is. Also, love it because it could change like that. I've had to really get used to huge parts of my body are now very numb and feel very different and still ache a lot at the minute. That'll change. But it's doing these things for my body, like exercising not out of fear of getting fat or fear of not being toned enough, or doing it because my body brings me so much. I want to thank it. Eating healthily because I want my body to have lovely thing, to be nourished and taken care of. Doing these things out of love, not fear.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that it starts shifting, and it's starting to get really, there's a lot of fear in this world, and there's a lot of fear is encouraged in this world.
Mm.
I saw a beautiful spiritual teacher called Anita Mijani, who I absolutely love and adore. I got to see her speak recently, and she said very much about this world. The energy can be very dense. It's very fear-based.
Mm.
We put children in schools that teach them fear of exams, and that's why they have to work instead of a love of learning. We have hospitals that give you fear of disease instead of loving your body well. Everything's around, the media is fed on fear, which is why I don't watch the news.
Exactly.
I feel like, as she said, her job is to bring people into love. That's my job with
Mm.
with this serene spiritual connection through the hypnotherapy and the coaching, is to bring you into love and bring yourself all that love and honoring who you are as you are. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You just need to love who you are. And I mean every part. Even people talk about reject your ego. Don't reject your ego. Love it. Just don't let it drive the boat. It's just, yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I've gone off on a
No, I,
tangent.
I love what you're saying. I love tangents, honestly. Like, call me, why do you
Yeah.
got a podcast so I can like officially do my tangents, the
I
guise of conversations.
love it.
But definitely that, and I think the older I've got in age, the more I would say really connected to the childlike quality, the wonder and the curiosity that comes with being creative. And and also reminding myself to take a step back and acknowledge what it is that I've done, what it is that I've created, because there isn't someone that's just going to phone me up and go, you're doing really well, Carol. Sometimes I just have to go, actually look at what I've created, look at what I've done with this, and this is as a result of finding that higher energetic resonance, finding that heart, and then seeing things that are shown to me and just going, do you know what, I'm going to do that, and see what comes as a result. And I think one of the things that can give everyone more ease is just look at the things that you have created, look at the things that you have made in your life, are just a simple thing, and acknowledge what has come as a result of that.
Appreciation,
And
isn't it?
it doesn't even have
Appreciate
to
who
be
you are and what
big.
you've done.
Yeah, what it
Yeah.
is. And joy it gives people. Sorry.
I think sometimes people focus, don't they, with gratitude practice on what stuff do they have or what do other people bring them. And actually, gratitude practice, appreciation practice can be so much more about you and what you appreciate yourself. Be grateful for you and what you've done. I'm so grateful to myself for cutting contact. It was fucking hard. Sorry, my language, but it was. It was really hard. And I'm really grateful to myself that I went, there's once upon a time I would never have gone and done things by myself. I always needed somebody to hold my hand. I went and saw Anita Mojani speak in Manchester by myself. I sat there by myself and befriended everybody around me because that's kind of what I do. I go to ecstatic dance by myself. I go and do these retreats by myself. And I would not have done that once upon a time. And I'm very grateful to the younger me for doing the work that's enabled me to do that. And I think it's really important to show that gratitude to yourself. And I think that helps you get to that higher resonance, doesn't it? It's just I've really felt that after a crazy year. I've really felt that shifting in the last few months. Like, just even around my work, I used to think I needed to focus, and I've done, if anybody wants to check out my TikTok, I've got endless videos on covert narcissistic mothers and understanding narcissism, emotional immaturity. And whilst I can do that, I've got the information, I've got the expertise there, I have a good understanding of it. I worked within domestic abuse for years as a probation officer. I got that stuff there. That's not what gives me that feeling. What gives me that is connecting people with the love of the universe, is bringing that love in, is helping them see that the love is available to them, but they are love. They are a divine, powerful being that is love. Like, I always love that, stop, looking for God or looking for the universe. You are it. You've got it all. It's all there within you, and connecting people with that. That's what I can talk about. But as you can tell, with so much passion and joy, that's what brings me that feeling. Yeah,
I think it's great. And I'd add to that, I think one of the other really powerful things is to really appreciate solitude and what you can explore and what you can discover in your own solitude and in your own silence. Before, like, if I think about my own relationship with solitude, before it used to be like no one's coming in, and that was the only piece that I had until I was able to make it a really rich experience, that this is the time that I'm taking for myself and this is the time that I'm exploring. It's not about me shutting people out, even though sometimes in order to go into my solitude I need people to not be around, but it's not, it's not in the reactive, it's not in the reactive way that
that's that fear-love thing again, isn't it? It's not having solitude because you're fearful of other people. It's having solitude out of a love for yourself. And that there's a big difference there. Because, I have worked with women who've isolated themselves a bit because of fear of other people and thinking, they can't trust other people, which is understandable when you know their past experiences. But helping them to realize that those beliefs are causing them to attract more of that, but also see more of it. Their brain is resonating with fear and with distrust. So it's bringing more evidence of that forward, that when we can start undoing some of those beliefs, that'll change. What they see in the world will change. I've seen women who I've worked with for a while, and they first start with me. I used to do like walk and talk sessions with people. I work more online with people now, but and I'd meet them for the first walk and they'd be like storming and just like ranting at me. And by within a few sessions, they'd be walking through the woods, just touching the leaves and going, "Wow, have you seen how beautiful that sky is?" And I'm like, I've gone. And it's just, it doesn't mean they live in that space, but it's there. Like, they can shift into it when they want to, they can, and when they've got the space to, it's there. And that's enough sometimes to help. I think, like you said, having that faith and having that spiritual support, just knowing it's there sometimes is enough. Like, I don't meditate every day. sometimes don't even meditate. I haven't meditated for a couple of weeks, actually, when I think about it.
Mm.
But what I do is pause every day and just know that the spirit are there. I can just say hi. I feel that connection. I feel that love there. I feel the love of the universe through the trees. I feel it through the rainbow in the sky. I feel it through my loved ones, through my friends. I feel it that way. You don't need, I know a lot of people go on about these, long spiritual practices and rituals. I think they're wonderful and I think they're beautiful and I love them. My day-to-day life doesn't always happen. But what I do have in my day-to-day life is an absolute faith and a knowledge that I'm connected to a loving universe and it's all around me and all within me. And that brings me so much joy and so much peace. It's beautiful.
Yeah, fabulous. Oh
Mm.
my gosh. Tell me about the work that you're doing now and how people can start to connect with you.
So you can connect. I've just started a new YouTube channel actually, which I
Ah.
need to put a bit more work into. I'm slowly getting all my because I've got lots of TikTok videos, so I'm getting them onto there. But I want to move to more long form and deeper connections. And TikTok's become all adverts, so I'm kind of moving on to YouTube. But the channel is called Spirit Journeys in Healing the Mother Wound, and I'm going to be sharing my spiritual experiences on this healing journey. So amazing experiences I had with my grandmother when she was passing and seeing what she was going to pass into and feeling the love that was there for her. Spiritual experiences, past lives I've experienced through my own healing, spiritual experiences with my own inner child, with my spirit guides and what they've shown me and the support they've given me, but also sharing some of the spiritual experiences with clients and amazing journeys they've had in hypnotherapy. Because I do spiritual connection, chakra healing, past life regression, a lot of inner child work, and there's some really beautiful stories there, and I do love sharing them. So that's what that YouTube channel is about, is sharing those stories. I am also working on, I've got an online, it's an evergreen program, so it just keeps running. You just join it when you want and can leave it when you want to, but it has 7 modules, all covering understanding mother wounds, but then looking at stillness, emotions, how you work with them rather than resisting them, reconnection with yourself and your spiritual self, energy, understanding how to protect your energy, how to get in the flow. Now, which is about being very much in the present moment, very influenced by Eckhart Tolle, and empowerment's the last one, which is just owning who you are and finding your tribe and finding those people you can completely be yourself with. So that's an ongoing program which I'm going to relaunch in the new year. And there's loads of video and content on there, but we also meet up monthly and have face-to-face Zoom calls, which is really lovely because you get that community then of women who are on this healing journey together and get it, and also a really safe space to talk openly about mother stuff, about spiritual connection, and it's really beautiful. It has been running previously, it's just I haven't relaunched it again recently, so I still have a little community that's there, and they will be there when new people come in. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm constantly doing readings and hypnotherapy sessions. So I do 1-hour reading coaching sessions, or we do the real deep dive 2-hour sessions. And you can find me if you just Google, because I'm everywhere. You can find me. But my website is just geraldincrane.com. My email is hello@geraldinecrane.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm very easy to find. Luckily, having a name like Geraldine makes me easier to find. But yes, you can book, what a lot of people do if they just want to find out what it's like to work with me, they book in for that hour because it's just 45 quid, and they just book in and we can have that really good chat before we decide, do we need to do the deep dive work? Or you can just explore, like I say, there is the program coming out. There's lots of different ways to engage with me, and I'm here and ready, and just love supporting people on this healing journey. It's incredible.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah. Great stuff.
Thank you for having me, and also for sharing with me too. It's always an honour.
Thank you so much, Geraldine, for sharing your wisdom with me, and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you know somebody who will benefit from the wisdom of my guest, please share that with them, and also leave a review and tell me how these episodes are transforming and informing you. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaywhittick.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook under Carol May Whittick, and Kazmic, Cazmick, on Instagram. Until the next episode, take care of yourself.